Welcome back to the garage, guys. We've been getting quite a few questions about setting up cut parameters for your JD's Garage plasma cutter. We thought we'd take a few minutes and go through the steps to set up proper cut parameters, along with some tips and tricks to help you get the best results from your JD's Garage plasma cutter. We're shooting today's video with the mini metal, but everything we're going to cover today is applicable to the mini metal, the mini 3D print, Gen 2 machine, or the XL machine. If you'd like to build any of these machines that we have, the link to the plans are in the description below. So today we're going to cover pierce time, cut speed, kerf compensation, how to get good holes, and a few other tips and tricks. First thing we're going to talk about is pierce. There's two parts to piercing. One, you have a pierce height. Two, you have your pierce time. It's absolutely critical that you get this right because everything else is based upon that. We have this little gauge that we made, and it is in the plans of all of our products now, and it's just got it's got steps of different heights. We generally use a 1.5 millimeter height to get started with, so that's what we're going to use for all our heights in this video. We set up a test with 4 different pierce times that decrease for each test. After the pierce, we cut about a 1-inch line, and then we're going to take a look at them. So let's take a look at these pierces in super slow motion. On the first pierce, you can see the bright flash of light and the sparks, and then when the sparks go away, that means the pierce is complete. So you can see the pierce gets complete, and then we start to move. There's a slight delay, and then it moves. In the second one, we get the pierce through, and it immediately starts to move. So there's not much time margin of error there, so that's why we chose the 0.75 pierce time. And then for the third one, it's moving before it even gets through. On the fourth one, it's moving before the torch even fully ignites. So in this testing, we're using 1/8 inch metal, and we've determined that our 0.75 pierce time is the best pierce time. So everything we do in the rest of this video is going to be using that 0.75 pierce time. Next thing we're going to talk about is cut speed, along with amperage. When it comes to amperage, your amperage is generally set by your nozzle size. If you have a 30 amp nozzle, you set your amperage to 30 amps. If you have a 40 amp, you set your amperage to 40 amp. If you have a 50 amp nozzle, you set your amperage to 50 amps. So for the cut speed test, we've set up 4 different rectangles with a line in the middle at 4 different speeds: 300 millimeters per minute, 750 millimeters per minute, 1,000 millimeters per minute, and 1,500 millimeters per minute. So we'll get these cut, and then we'll take a look at them and analyze them. We've got our 4 samples down here, and we're taking a look at it. This is the first sample. This was cut at 300 millimeters per minute, 700, 1,000, and 1,500. So we can see right away the 300 has way too much low speed dross on it. The 700's looking pretty good. The 1,000's looking pretty good. And then on the 1,500, we're seeing a little chatter and little things going on with the dross. So that's just from a dross perspective. We're going to take a look at the edge profile on the 300 millimeters per minute. We can see these kerf marks. They're fairly vertical. They look okay. Now moving on to the 700 here, we can see the kerf lines. There's a slight angle. We're shooting for about a 15-degree angle. Those look pretty good. Moving on to the 1,000, we can see that these lines are getting to be a little more of an angle to them. And we're going to get into the video on why this is a problem a little bit later. And now we move on to the 1,500, and we can see we're getting quite a bit of angle on these kerf marks. So that means the bottom of the torch is dragging behind the top of the torch. Now that we've established our pierce time and our feed speed, we're going to go ahead and cut out a couple of squares. With these 2 squares, we're going to use left hand for the first square. We're going to use right hand for the second. And watch the way the torch travels around the squares. So here we have the 2 squares that we cut out. We have the left hand and the right hand bias where we're going around clockwise, counterclockwise. So if we take a look at the back side of them, they look fairly similar, a little less slag on the left hand because it's actually cutting into the swirl instead of away from the swirl. One thing about this is high speed dross, so it's usually not very difficult to get off. See if I can get it off here. Yeah, see, I can just push that off with my finger. It comes off real easy. In almost all cases, you're going to use left-hand bias, unless you have a very distinct reason to use right hand, but we're not going to go into those reasons today. Moving on to kerf compensation. We're going to cut out a square in the metal, another 2-inch square, and look on the metal, you can see the null sign or the 0 with the line through it. We're going to use that sample to help establish our kerf width so we can adjust for it for the next cut. The kerf width we're going to establish is for this pierce time, this feed speed, this metal thickness, so basically for this tool setup. So here's our null piece that we cut out. We set the parameters at 2 inches by 2 inches with no kerf adjustment on this. So let's take a look and see how we came out, how close we came out to 2 inches. So we're gonna take a look and we're gonna measure this, and we're getting about 55 thousandths total kerf. So we're getting about 27 on this side, 27 kerf on that side. So we need to enter that in to Fusion, and so we compensate on the next part. Now that we've adjusted our kerf compensation and entered it into Fusion, we've adjusted for that. Now we're cutting out a second square, and you can see on the metal, this one has KC on it, or kerf compensation. So we're going to cut that out and get it measured. So we've got our kerf compensated piece, the one we wrote KC on it. We've adjusted the measurements in Fusion. We've got our caliper here zeroed out. We're going to move it out to 2 inches, and we're going to see how we came out here. So got this in here. We're right at 2 inches. Going to check the square the other way, and we're just maybe a thousandth or a thousandth and a half under. So this thing is really good and it's dialed in. Next, we're going to move on to proper cutting holes. So for these tests, we're moving on to 1/4 inch metal. Now we've already established some parameters for 1/4 inch. We're not going to go through them in the video, but we're going to cut out that 2-inch square again, and we're going to cut out a couple 16mm holes. We switched over to 1/4 inch because it's easier to see the problems that can develop when cutting holes. In this first sample, we did not use lead-ins on the hole, and we did that for a reason, so it gives us a better view of what's going on in the hole. In the second sample, the feed speeds for each hole stayed the same as the first sample. The only thing we changed was we added lead-ins and over travel to those holes. Here's where we have our two pieces that we cut out with the holes in them. The first one, we did no lead in, lead out. You can see where we get this big booger here, this big gouge. These we added lead in and over travel, so they look much better. One thing I want to talk about, if I take a look at this piece and I move it to the side, you can see this kerf is dragging way behind on here. So it's way past that 15-degree angle. So when we're cutting straight, that's fine. But now that we cut a circle, when your bottom is traveling behind the top, it creates a funnel. And I don't know, that might be a little tough to see in here, but this one was cut at the same speed as the outside. This hole was cut at a slower speed, 40% of what we cut the outside. And this helps us keep a straighter kerf up and down so we don't get that funnel shape. And when you have the lead-in in here, you see that problem much better. Or without the lead-in. Once we added the lead-in, this one doesn't look as bad, but it's still bad. So this one is cut at the same speed as the outside with this bad kerf angle. And this one is slowed down to 40% of our outside speed to help us get a straight hole up and down. Won't be perfectly straight, but it's going to be much better on that hole than on this one by slowing this hole down to 40% of our cut speed. Now, something I maybe should have done before this is maybe we should have chipped off a little bit of that slag, because you are seeing a little bit of that slag through the bottom here that would actually make those holes look better if we'd have chipped that off ahead of time. Now that we've got our critical parameter set, we're going to go ahead and cut out a part. A couple things we're going to add to this part. The first one is smoothing. This is something that we click on in Fusion, and what it does is it takes tiny small line segments and turns them into arc. It actually makes for better cutting. So you're going to want that turned on in Fusion. The second thing we're doing on this part is we're adding lead-ins. So as we start the part, the torch is going to start off of the part and then cut in and go around. So the third thing we're going to do on this sample is we're going to add over travel to the holes. We've added about 90-degree over travel, and this is a fusion setting. And what it does is when the torch comes in, it leads in, cuts the entire 360, and then it keeps cutting about another 90 degrees to give a nice smooth edge on that hole. So here's the piece that we cut out once we had everything set. And if we take a look at it, we've got some real nice round holes. We've got a very nice, if I can get that to focus, a very nice edge cut on it. And the dross on the back just chipped off very easy. So very nice cut on that. One thing we did notice is we had a few artifacts on this final part that we cut right here. Those artifacts were caused by the torch not being fully shut off when the torch was moving. Now, we also noticed it on a couple of these speed test pieces we cut. The same thing was happening. Now, that's very rare that you'll experience that. It was extremely cold in the garage when we cut these. It was several degrees below freezing. But the good news is there's a setting in Fusion that we can set to compensate for those, so you don't get those. Well, with that, guys, we sure hope you find this information helpful. If you find it helpful, consider buying us a cup of coffee at the link below. It helps support the channel. It helps us to keep making content like this in the future. With that, make sure to like and subscribe.